Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Create Your Offline App webinar. This is the first webinar on offline topics on with the OutSystems platform. First of all, let me present myself. I'm Ricardo Ferreira. I'm a software engineer at R&D, and I've been involved in doing this the latest version of the OutSystems platform, OutSystems 10, and I've been involved in doing the offline parts of it. So let me just start with a brief introduction. So today we are living in an age where we are using our mobile apps all of the time, and we are constantly connected. But now and then we get disconnected, and when we get disconnected, strange things might happen with our applications. So they can run they can not they will not allow us to do everything that they should do when we are online, and the apps may not be ready at all for this type of scenario. And there are also other type of applications that are basically field service applications, where these are not consumer applications. They are enterprise applications, business applications, and these applications may also be or your workers may have to work in places where they don't have network at all. And so this is a pretty hot topic nowadays, and building your apps in a way that they work good both online and offline will get the best experience to your users. This can be applied to both consumer apps and both fieldwork apps. But the main thing is that the building this type of applications is offline ready applications is really a hard challenge. And so in this webinar, I will give you a few tips on how to design these apps and how to build them. And we are going to see an interesting offline app created with OutSystems, and I will guide you through this process. Okay, as I told you, the most important thing is that you need to design this applications, and you need to design it offline first. So you need to think of your application as if it had no network connection at all. So imagine you're in the 90s. In the 90s, you didn't have internet connection 100% of the time. So only now and then you would have internet connection, and your app still worked. Okay, so you need to think of your app. You need to design your app in the same way. So how can it work without any network connection? And one of the most important things that you need to know is, or you need to determine, is what type of capabilities you want your application to offer while it is offline. So you want to clearly identify what are the use cases, what type of functionalities you want to have, and when specifically are you going to need a connection to connect to the internet and to connect to the back end of the application, for instance. Okay. Another very important thing is about handling data. Well, your application will certainly work with data. So you already have data in your backend, your business data, and so you'll need somehow to store this data in the device. And to do this, you will probably going to need a device database. So nowadays, mobile devices, as you all know, are getting more powerful, and it is possible to run a really light database in your device. So you can have a subset of the data that is in your backend in your device. So imagine if you're doing a field service app, this database will have all the tasks that your workers need to accomplish. Okay, so this is pretty simple. And now you need to know what will your users, depending on the use cases that you have, what will your users do with this data. Do they just need to read it, browse it? Do they need to modify it? And when they need to modify it, what's going to happen? Is that this information needs to be sent to the backend, or it stays on the device? Uh, will there will be any type of data synchronization with the backend or not? And this topic of data synchronization is pretty tough because what you are doing when you create an offline application and you put a database in your device is that now you have data split in different locations. So imagine this situation where you have a database in your pocket, like just like this guy here, and you have your backend in the cloud. Okay, so now you have a situation where you have two databases. Okay, and so you need to find a way to basically to synchronize data between each database. Okay, this looks pretty easy in this scenario, but the problem is that you will not only have one database. You will have multiple devices, and each device will hold its own copy of the database. And so data synchronization will get really complicated. So now you're dealing with a distributed database problem that is a really hard problem that the industry is trying to solve for the past 50 years. And especially things get really complicated when you allow your users to modify data uh, in their own devices while they are offline. So all of a sudden, you don't have your centralized data anymore, and each device will hold a different version or a different copy of this data, and this will be really hard to sync things back. Well, we've analyzed this problem. This is a really big problem, and this is highly application specific, so it depends a lot on the use cases of your application. But in its essence, this actually boils down to very few common patterns. And there are basically two groups of patterns. There are patterns that you will encounter when you just need to read data in your device. So for instance, if you have a catalog of products in your backend, and you want your users to 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 read this data while they're offline. So, for instance, if you want to see, if you need to take this device to a remote location and sell this product to someone, they can access the application offline and read this data. Okay, this is the most simple pattern. So it only involves on picking the data in the backend and putting it in the device database. And then there are the other more complicated patterns where local modifications on data are allowed. And so if you have a scenario where your your users can change the data locally in the device, this data needs to be sent somehow back to the backend. And depending on the use case or application, this can be more simple or more complicated. It depends a lot on the use case. And so you have two choices. You either use a more simple situation or more simple pattern, sorry, that is the last right wins. So imagine if there are two persons doing the modifications on different types of data. You don't need to care about any conflict because you don't have to care about any conflict because there won't be any. So you just need to write stuff back to the backend. But if these two persons modify the same data, well, since this is the last right wins policy, the last guy to synchronize will win over the previous one. And so this may lead you may have situations where you actually lose data. And so if you have this type of scenarios, you have to go to a conflict detection and resolution pattern. And this is detecting conflict is highly specific on the application and their use cases, and also solving is also in the same page. And so this is basically you need this conflict detection when you have um, apps where multiple end users can collaborate. For instance, imagine that you have a sales field app where all the accounts and all the opportunities are available in your application. If if two users change the same detail for a specific account, well, when this data is synchronized back to the server, somehow the server must deal with this conflict. So you must ask the users or someone dealing with this with the backend, what is the data to consider? What is the detail the modification to consider on your data? Sorry. And so this is basically the basics of creating an offline and offline application. This is what we are going to deal with. And now let's move to a more technical aspect of offline applications. That is how offline is built in OutSystems 10. And so basically you have when in OutSystems 10 when you build a mobile application, all the application itself, all the stuff that you build from it, the screens, the logic, everything, it's already bundled in the native app. And so the application can start and work as offline. So you have all these capabilities of doing client-side processing. So you can use processing, you can process data in your device. Well, but for handling data, you have access to a device database that we call the local storage. And this local storage enables you to store data, so you can put entities on the device, and it's really easy and powerful to manipulate, as I will show you right away. And if you have special security needs for this local storage database, if you are holding sensitive information in your device, there is a plugin that enables you to cipher this data and encrypt this data if you need it. Okay. And then about data synchronization, we have something also that will help you. So we have generation of custom logic for the two most common patterns that are the read only and the read write best write wins. And we have samples with a lot of documentation on these patterns, and also have more examples for you to see. Okay. Okay, so let's move to the fun part of this webinar, that is the demo that you probably all be waiting for. And in this demo, I will present you a really simple application. So this application is about a tow truck company. And so we have a process that is currently pretty simple. So in our company, we receive work orders by phone. So when someone's car is broke or they have an accident or something, they call the company. They say, okay, you need to pick me up at this location, and I need to go to the car repair shop or something. The company will assign a tow truck driver to do that order. So it will pass him the information where the vehicle is, etc. And when the driver of the tow truck reaches the location of the car, he needs to gather a few notes, take some pictures of the car, because we have some insurance and legal matters that we need to comply with. When the car is delivered at the final location, the customer needs to sign a simple form, and later this information goes back to our headquarters, and we will charge the customer or the insurance company for the work that we've just did. So this is pretty simple, and currently this is a paper and phone-based process, and we want to embrace the digital transformation in our company as well. And so we're going to build a set of applications here that will allow us to digitalize most of this process. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so basically in this application we have already created a few components in this application for this demo. So we created a back office, where in this back office, this is like the system that is running in our headquarters. So this is where we register all work orders for our customers, and this is running in our back office. As you can see here, we have this order. We need to pick this car at this location, delivered over there. It's assigned to a driver that is Bob. I'm going to represent Bob in this scenario, and there are also other drivers as this one. So this is not yet assigned to any driver. Okay, so it still needs to be assigned. Okay, and so what we are going to do, the mobile application that we're going to do, is an application that is going to be used by our by the driver of the truck. And what will happen is that the driver of the truck will receive the work orders in its device. So it has a network. It has a network connection on its device. It will receive the new work orders. So it will be notified about new work orders that it needs to do, and it can see all the details of where he needs to pick the car. It can take the pictures of the car. It can grab the signature of the user. But all these parts, except from the part of receiving the information on this device, all these parts need to work offline, because sometimes the users the drivers in this case, they go to remote locations, and probably they all have to go to basements and stuff like that, where they don't have the best network conditions. And so it's safer for you to create this application with an offline first approach. So that's what we are going to do here. Okay. So the first part. So we already have our back office, and so I created this. This is still a blank application, blank mobile application. And as you can see here, I'm going to switch to the data tab. And as you can see here, there is already in our back office, the back office is already exposing some information that I'm going to need to consume in my application. So I already have here the work orders and the pictures assigned to each work order, and I also have insurance companies. Okay, and so what I need to do in my application is I need to determine, first of all, what data will I handle in the application to support this offline use cases. And as you can see, the offline use cases that I just talked about, they only actually deal with work orders. So I just have to have in my local storage these two entities that are actually what the information that I need regarding all the work orders. Okay, and so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to just right click here. So I'm going to add an entity from the database. So this is pretty easy. So I'm going to pick the work order, and I'm going to do the same for, sorry, and I'm going to do the same for the picture. Okay. And so what do I have now? Now I have in my local storage, I have the space necessary to store this information. We are not yet storing this information because, as you noticed, I haven't yet set up any synchronization. We'll go through that in a few moments. But now I have the space necessary to do whatever I want. Okay. One of the things that are important when you design offline applications, this is really relevant information for you, is that you need to limit. It's the best practice for you to limit the stuff that you actually store in the device storage. Okay, and so every information that, as you can imagine, as you can see in here, the back office also includes information regarding the insurance companies. Well, we need this information from the back office point of view, But from the local storage, we actually don't need it because our application, the use cases of our mobile application will not deal with insurance companies. So we'll just deal with work orders. So that's why we just picked work orders. And even in work orders, we are going to limit ourselves to just have the work orders that are the work orders that are actually assigned to a particular user. Okay, so as you can see in here, as you noticed in our back office, and I can show it right away. The back office has this information of to whom is the work order assigned to. In this case, since each user will have its own mobile phone or its own tablet, we don't need to have this information in local storage because uh, every work order that will be on if I'm a driver, every work order that is on my devices are actually my work orders. And we're going to deal with this selection of information in the synchronization. So I don't actually need to have this assigned to field here. So I just can simply delete it because I don't need it. Okay. The other fields I actually need. Okay. Now let's set up synchronization. As I told you, well, I'm going to just gonna do this for this local order. The pictures will tackle them later. And since I created this entity, this local storage entity here, based on the other entity, I have access to a series of accelerators that we have in our development environment that enables you to create actions that help you synchronize data. Okay, and so the scenario that I want to create, as I told you, so we're going to need to modify data in the device. And so I'm going to create an action to synchronize data, and I'm going to pick this read-write option to do it. Okay. And so when I create this, what happened? Well, a lot of stuff happened here. So it was we created this comment here says that this is an automatic generated action. So we created this action, and what this action will do is that this action will actually pick the local modifications on my local device. It will send them to the backend, and so if I double click the sync work orders, I will see it here in the backend, and the modifications are going to be updated in the backend, and we are going to download all modified data back to the local storage. And so in here, I'm going to delete everything. After this, I'm going to delete everything and create everything based on what the server has returned to me. Okay. One of the things that we need to do is as it's stated here in this comment. Uh, it's really important for you to customize the sections to fit your specific use case of your application. Well, in our application, we want just to have we don't want to have in every device all work orders from all drivers. I just want to have the work orders of my specific driver. Okay, and so to do that, I'm going to enter this section and I'm going to customize it. And so I'm just going to here create a new filter, and I'm going to filter, and I'm going to say that this work order, the work orders that I'm going to retrieve for the offline data synchronization, they need to be assigned to the currently logged user. Okay, and by doing this, I am limiting the amount of data that is going to be downloaded to the device. And also, I can add another filter. For me, it's more important to see the only information that I want to see in the device are the work orders that I still need to do, not the work orders that are already done. And so we have this field here that tells you whether the work orders are complete or not. And so I just want to synchronize to the device work orders that are not yet complete. Okay. And by doing this, I just customize this data synchronization. Okay. Now, another very important fact of this of this of the local storage handling. As I told you, using local storage entities is like using database entities. So data manipulation is exactly the same. So if you want to have in this page, if I want to show all the work orders that are on the device, I just need to fetch data from the local storage. And this experience is the same as fetching data from the database. So I just need to drag data here. Okay, I already have the data, and I just need to create a list for it. Okay, and here I have the information. Okay. Now, in the same way, if I need to edit data, I just have to let me just create a new screen here to edit this data. I'm going to create a new screen. Okay. So I'm going to, in this screen, I'm going to create a form so I can edit a work order. So this is work order here. I'm going to create a form in here, and so I'm going to fetch data for this specific work order in here. So I just have to drag the identifier in here. So what is this doing? This is going to the local work order entity, and it's actually retrieving the specific work order that I am editing, and I just have to put in here the sorry, I dragged the wrong stuff, and I just have to put in here the work order. Okay, so this is pretty easy, and also modification of this work order is also pretty easy. So if you see on the data tab under local work order, you have a set of actions that enable you to modify data. Okay, but in this case, since I created synchronization to basically to push data modifications from the device to the server, the actions that I created actually created a few more attributes in this entity, and these attributes are basically metadata attributes that control whether this data was created on the device or not, whether it was modified or whether if it was deleted or not. And so instead of using these entity actions, I need to use these entities that were created automatically. So I need to use this entity here. And so I just have to use it in here and specify the source. Okay. And by doing this, I am modifying the local storage entities. Okay. So this is pretty easy. Data manipulation is exactly the same as manipulating data from the server. For those of you that already know how to do this, for those that don't, please check our other webinars and our documentation on how to do it. So it's pretty straightforward. And now there's missing another important part of my application. So I want this synchronization. I created these actions, and I want the synchronization to happen on a specific point of the application. So I want to have a button in the main screen in here in the work orders that enables me to synchronize data. So I'm just going to put in here a sync button, and I'm going to link it to a new action. It's not a button, it's really an action. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically trigger the offline data synchronization. And so there is already an action that is bundled in all the mobile applications that is this trigger offline data sync. And so this action actually invokes another action in the background. And so this is what it evokes the action to synchronize data in the background. And so this is what I'm going to use here, okay? And the action I need to the action that will actually do the offline data synchronization. I just need to customize it. As you can see in here, this is also as a integrated help here that tells you how to use this. It has a link for common synchronization patterns, and that explains everything regarding synchronization and the various possibilities that you might have. But in this case, the only thing that I need to do is actually to sync the local work order. So I have already created previously this section. So I just need to drag here and synchronize the work orders. Okay, and by doing this, data will get synchronized. Since it will get synchronized on the background, I have in each screen I have a set of events that are going to be triggered when the synchronization is complete, and also when the synchronization starts, and also when it has an error. And so what I want to do is when the users click this button here, I want the synchronization to start. It will start in background, and when it ends, I want to basically refresh the data on the screen with the new data that was just synchronized. And so to do this, I'm going to create here a new client action, and all I need to do is to inform the user about the success of the operation. And after this, refresh this data. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Okay, and so I already have here the same application, but in a little bit more advanced scenario. So I have in here the list of orders. So this is basically, it has the same thing that I did. So it just has different. It has basically two lists in here. One to show the orders that are still to do, and the other to show the orders that are already done and still pending synchronization. And I have a more advanced form to edit the changes, where I can write some notes. I can take the pictures and take signatures from the client, etc. And so what also another thing that I did was I created for this entity, for the local work order picture, I created the same synchronization actions as I created for the other one. And so in the offline data sync, I actually call two actions: one to synchronize local orders, and another one to synchronize their pictures. Okay. And so let's going to see the application actually running. And so as you can see, I have in here my local my work orders in my back office. I have here a vision of what is the application on the device. Okay, and so I have here all my work orders. So this is the application that I just built, and so I have here this work order. Tapping this work order, I'll access their details. Okay, and in here, this is where the driver is going to work. So this part of the application can actually work offline, because everything is stored in the local storage. And so if I disconnect the network from here, okay, so I'm absolutely without any network. Okay, if I disconnect the network, the application still works. Why? Because it's using the database that is on the device. Okay. So now imagine that the user is actually the driver is actually going for this service here in Santa Monica, and he is at the delivery, he found the driver, he's delivering the car, and now he needs to fill in the details about what happened to the car. And so he can write here in the notes that basically the car had no gasoline. Okay, so it had absolutely no gas, and now he can take pictures of the car. And to take pictures of the car, he just has to tap this add picture button. And so here we have our car with the lady that somehow left the car without any gas. I'm going to take the picture. Okay. And I will also take another picture just because it is fun with the car actually being fixed. Focus, focus. A little bit out of focus, but you got the idea. Okay. Now I'm going to say that the car was delivered, and the customer is going to sign over here. So the customer is going to give it great signature. And notice that I'm doing this while I'm offline. I'm not online at the moment. I'm going to save. Okay. And what happens is now this work order is marked as delivered and still pending synchronization. So if I access, I have all the information here. This was information that was just stored in the device local storage. And if I push the synchronization button, okay, it will fail. Why? Because I currently have no network connectivity. One of the things that I forgot to mention in the application is that I also had another way of doing the synchronization. You can either do the synchronization explicitly in this application, or you can do it automatically. So imagine a situation where if your phone is offline, but it's all of a sudden it gains network again, and there are stuff, there is data to be synchronized. The phone will automatically synchronize data, and that's what I'm going to show you here. And so to do that in the Service Studio, I only had to edit this action here that enables me to basically to configure points where data synchronization is triggered automatically. And so I changed this sync on online assignment to true, and this makes the application to react automatically when the device has network again. Okay. There are also other points of synchronization, of automatic synchronization. It can be done on login after you resume the application from the background, and also there are other options regarding what happens when there are errors. And so going back to our application, I'm going to put the network on in the device, and what will happen is that the device will do the synchronization automatically. So I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi on again, okay? And once the device got network, the synchronization happened, and now this task was marked as done, so it's not here, it's not on the device anymore. And if I check on my back office, okay, the data was actually synchronized, and so I have here this work order that is done, and I have here all the information that I gathered while I was offline. So this is the example of a field app where the user did all its operation when offline, and when he got network again, the data was synchronized back from the device to the backend. Okay. So moving along with our presentation. So in summary, well, as you can see, mobile applications with offline support deliver your users the best experience. in here, the user could actually, in this particular scenario that we had, the user could actually have network at the time he was taking the pictures. But the network could have been a little bit, the quality of the network might have been a little bit shaky, or could be this sort of Wi-Fi connection. And by designing your application with offline, with this offline strategy, enables your users to continue working without depending on the network, and only depending on the network when it's actually needed to connect to do synchronization. Okay, and so designing an offline application. Well, we need to clearly identify what are the features that you want to have offline in your applications, what you want our users to do, what type of data you want to store in the device, and keep in mind that you cannot store in the device every data that is in your backend, because as you can understand, the device has limitations. So it has space limitations. Also, the computing power is not the same as in your backend. And finally, how you will handle this data in the device. So whether you are going to just read the data, write the data, whatever you're going to do it. As you can see, data synchronization is a little bit challenging, but OutSystems 10 eases you doing that. So it has out-of-the-box synchronization patterns that you can customize and adapt to your scenario, and offline data manipulation is pretty easy. Okay, so if you want to read more about these topics regarding offline, I've written a blog post regarding this. So you can read this article that basically explains most everything that we covered in this webinar. There is also another situation regarding offline that I told you a few moments ago. That is this what they call the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is actually worse than offline, because it's when the device tells you that there is network, but it will not be able to communicate with the internet at all. And so one of the greatest strategies to solve this is actually to think offline. And if you think offline, you will be more protected against these hazardous network conditions that will ruin your application. Okay. There are also a few links that I can share with you. So we have a set of samples and documentation on data synchronization patterns, and we also have this ciphered local storage plugin that enables you to secure your local storage. Thank you very much.